Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta. Coming up on this broadcast shortly, South Africa is heading for elections this month. A party that has ruled since the independence of the country is fighting to stay afloat. We will tell you why this could be the most tracked polling year of the country. In other news, Donald Trump's hush money trial is underway. Apart from the expected witness in the courtroom, many of Trump's allies are flocking to the Manhattan court. We look at the politics. Are they eyeing Trump's running mate's position? South Africa will go to polls in just 15 days. This might be a turning point election for the country.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa on Monday rejected opposition allegations that a recent pause in electricity cuts was due to an election coming up on May 29th. The Democratic Alliance, the biggest opposition party, last week attributed the improved power supply to, quote, political interference by the ANC. It accused the party of putting pressure on Eskom to keep the lights on. In 2023, rolling power cuts imposed by state utility Eskom reached record levels. They continued into the first quarter of this year. But there has now been no load shedding, as South Africans called the cuts, for 48 days, the longest period for more than 2 years. The dramatic improvement in power supply has led to accusations that the timing was designed to improve voters' satisfaction. Ramaphosa said Eskom's improved performance showed that the government's energy plan, announced in 2022, was bearing fruit. He attributed the improvement to a renewed focus by Eskom on maintenance, new generation capacity from renewables, and a strong take-up of rooftop solar panels. However, Eskom's former CEO alleged last week that the utility is burning more diesel to increase supply. According to South Africa's energy regulator, in April alone, Eskom had generated more than half of the amount budgeted for per quarter. South Africa's electricity minister denied the accusation.
Unfortunately, power cuts are not the only problem on the voters' mind. There are a slew of issues plaguing the country for years and are also under the spotlight in the upcoming elections.
South Africa has one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. And young people account for more than half of the country's unemployed, with a rate of over 40%. The problem is now worse than it was at the end of apartheid. In 2023, the joblessness rate stood at 32.4%, nearly 10 points higher than in 1994. The root cause of the joblessness crisis is a sluggish growth, with the economy barely growing in more than a decade. Economic growth has averaged 0.8% since 2012. The debt-to-GDP ratio is projected to reach 74.1% in the current fiscal year, up from 63.3 5 years ago. Many South Africans believe that the greed of people in office is contributing to poor service delivery for everyone else. Known as state capture, a 2018 inquiry found that high-level corruption had been systemic in government during Zuma's years in power. Zuma himself denies any wrongdoing. Since taking over, President Cyril Ramaphosa has said tackling corruption was a priority, but opposition critics say his administration has done too little to stop the rot.
Now, on top of the issue, there is a new controversial bill passed by President Cyril Ramaphosa, and that might become the latest problem on the voters' mind. Just days ahead of the May 29th election, Ramaphosa will be signing a national health bill on Wednesday, which is tomorrow. The ruling party says that it aims to provide universal coverage to South Africans, but the bill has already come under contention for not being feasible. Now, correspondent Kaldin Ongmu has more on this from Johannesburg.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has finally found a pen to sign the controversial National Health Insurance Bill into law on Wednesday. As predicted, not everyone is happy with the announcement, and reports are suggesting that some medical professionals might challenge this legally. The government has said this legislation will finally bring equality in the healthcare system for all South Africans, but many have cited the bill as an electioneering tactic from South Africa's ruling party, the ANC, and believe that following intense litigation, it might never see the light of day in its current form because some believe that this is financially not viable. This is Caledonia from Johannesburg, South Africa. For WION, World is One.
The big story right now, it is week 4 of Donald Trump's hush money trial, and at this point it has turned to everything: sex, bank transfers and power. It is happening less than 6 months before elections, and Donald Trump is hardly getting any time to campaign. So the campaign might be coming to him. Last-minute guests have joined Trump today in the courtroom. 3 Republicans are sitting behind the former president, literally having his back. One is House Speaker Mike Johnson. Second is North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. And the third is former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. 3 men joined Trump a day after J.D. Vance, the Republican senator who reports say that has his eyes on becoming Trump's running mate. The trial started with Michael Cohen taking the stand again. In his own words, Cohen accepted being a fixer for Trump, among other things. He worked directly for Trump and mainly threatened lawsuits against people who could hurt his boss, Donald Trump. One of them was Stormy Daniels. Cohen testified that he paid hush money to Daniels to stay quiet about his sexual relationship with Trump. Cohen also claimed that Trump personally gave his approval for the transaction, a claim that Trump has repeatedly denied. He has even denied having sex with Daniels. The crime here is that Trump allegedly orchestrated a way to hide the hush money transaction, further bury any news stories about Daniels too. Cohen also testified that Trump was pushing the story only till the 2016 elections. Cohen in many ways was strategically brought in by the prosecutors. He corroborated testimonies of those before him: David Pecker, Hope Hicks and Stormy Daniels, to name a few. The former president and aspiring next president of the US, Donald Trump, is facing charges on 34 counts. If convicted, Trump could be sentenced up to 20 years in prison. This is among the 3 other criminal cases lodged against him, but it is the hush money case which will only see a verdict before November presidential elections in the US.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We had a long day in court.
Now to decode this further, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is joining us live from New York. Susan, good to see you. It is the big day. We are hearing, of course, the hush money trial that has resumed, and we knew that Michael Cohen will be taking the stand again. But apart from that, let's shift our focus to the politics that is playing out. We see that Republicans are in a way joining hands and moving forward to support Trump while he's in court. Could we see this, that since Trump is not able to attend the campaign is in a way coming to him?
Yeah, that's such a great analogy. And we knew that because Trump is bound in this courtroom legally, he has to be there every day until the end of the court, that he would have to rely on surrogates to campaign for him. Of course, him being such a colorful character, the replacement is nearly impossible, but it is the second best thing. We heard Speaker Johnson speak to the media just a few minutes ago. He talked about how this campaign is politically motivated, and that it shouldn't, even be in a courtroom right now, notably a main contender of the presidential election, really also echoing what the former president has been saying, which again goes back to what you alluded to, that this is really a way of the campaign not only coming to him, but also Republicans and big name Republicans rallying around him. I thought it was interesting that Doug Burgum was once again behind Donald Trump. If you remember, just a few days ago, he was in New Jersey during that 100,000 person rally. Doug Burgum was there as well. We see him again. So the murmurs and whispers of him being the possible front runner in Trump's vice presidential pick just gets louder and louder.
All right, Susan, thank you so much for getting us all those updates from New York. All right, now U.S. presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has filed a lawsuit against Facebook parent Meta platforms. RFK Jr.'s lawsuit claims that Meta has interfered in the U.S. elections by blocking one of his political advertisements. The lawsuit has been filed in the federal court of San Francisco by Kennedy Jr. and the American Values 2024 Super Political Action Committee. The case states that Meta censored a 30-minute video advertisement about Kennedy Jr.'s Meta's life and views. Allegedly, Meta removed the advertisement, preventing users from watching, sharing or posting its link. The advertisement talks about Kennedy Jr.'s family, his work as an environmental lawyer and his concerns about the COVID-19 vaccines and lockdowns. Even though Meta said that they stopped censoring the video, the lawsuit claims it's still blocked for users. Kennedy Jr. and scores of users of social media have criticized Meta's actions, calling the block unfair. In today's digital age, social media is vital for political engagement, from rallying support for causes to discussing important issues. However, ensuring that these platforms aren't tampered with is absolutely crucial. It's up to policymakers, businesses and society to work together to protect democracy from manipulation online. Notably, Kennedy Jr. has faced bans from YouTube and Instagram earlier for spreading misinformation regarding COVID-19 vaccines. However, Kennedy Jr. has previously rejected the anti-vaccine label, saying that he believes vaccines should just have more rigorous testing.
They're going to have a hope for this country again, and they're going to learn.
Now, 2022 was undoubtedly the most chaotic year for the United Kingdom. It saw 3 different prime ministers in less than 3 months. Many called political uncertainty the new normal in the UK. Others called the debacle the end of Tories. At a time like that, Rishi Sunak took charge and said this.
I will unite our country, not with words, but with action. I will work day in and day out to deliver for you. This government will have integrity, professionalism, and accountability at every level. Trust is earned, and I will earn yours.
Trust. Rishi Sunak asked for the trust of the people when he was asked to run the country, only to ask for it again ahead of the coming elections this year.
My lead will always be there for you. But that's only possible if we take the tough decisions to strengthen the country's finances and control debt. And you can trust me to do that.
Rishi Sunak stands at crossroads right now. His party is still recovering from the local elections losses and ratings are not on his side either. YouGov's latest poll on popularity of politicians puts him in the 34th spot, whereas opposition leader Keir Starmer is sitting comfortably in the 2nd spot. Ipsos says 3 in 4 Britons think it's unlikely that Rishi Sunak will win the upcoming elections. In some good news, UK just exited a shallow recession. Sunak had made economic growth as one of his top priorities, so a green economy report will be something to boast for. Another big story, the streets of Georgia are witnessing large-scale protests as we speak. But untouched by demonstrations, the country's parliament has voted to approve the 3rd and final reading of the quote-unquote Foreign Agents Bill. The very same legislation that has for weeks spiraled into a political crisis for the country. Just a short while ago, the bill was passed with 84 members of parliament out of 150 voting in favour. But it wasn't a smooth process. The unrest outside was mirrored by a scuffle inside the parliament as well. Lawmakers from the ruling party and opposition parties pushed each other with debating the contentious bill. The timing of this legislation is also crucial. It comes just months ahead of general elections in October this year. If the bill becomes a law before polls, the ruling Georgian Dream Party is likely to face pushback and voters and opposition alike, which can impact its run as the party in power since 2012. On the ground, Georgian capital of Tbilisi has been gripped by its largest street protests in years. The Opponents of the bill have been staging protests for a month. A rally on Saturday was one of the largest Georgia has seen since its independence from Moscow in 1991. As per the Foreign Agents Bill, advocacy groups and media outlets that receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad will have to register as an organization pursuing the interests of a foreign power. The protesters accused the ruling party of moving the Black Sea nation closer to Moscow as Russia used a similar law to stifle dissent, targeting independent NGOs, journalists and political opponents. The European Union has said the bill will sabotage Georgia's hopes of joining the European Union. But the ruling Georgian Dream Party says the legislation is needed to enhance the transparency of NGO funding and protect the country from interference by Western powers. Time for a short break now, but don't go too far. On the other side, we take a look at how government schemes have helped the startup ecosystem of India over the years. Stay tuned.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at wion.com.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Welcome back. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta. Overnight riots erupted in New Caledonia, a French overseas territory. The trigger is a proposed voting reform proposed in Paris that has angered separatists hundreds of miles away. The unrest began on Monday night as hundreds of protesters rallied against a constitutional reform being debated in National Assembly in Paris. French lawmakers are looking to pass a bill that expands the electorate in the territory's provincial elections for people who have lived in the region for more than 10 years. Over 80 people have been arrested and at least 50 police personnel have been injured in the ongoing clashes. But why is it that the bill has caused unrest on island territory? Well, New Caledonia is a French overseas territory, as we told you, which lies between Australia and Fiji. Now, as compared to other such territories under France, the island already has special status. As far as the population goes, 41% of the residents of the island are from the indigenous Kanak community. 24% are European migrants, especially French. The proposed amendment to voting laws and eligibility has been met with resistance because of a key amendment under the 1998 Accord. Under the agreement, voting in provincial election was restricted to people who had resided in New Caledonia prior to 1998 and their children. The key objective of this measure was to give greater representation to the native Kanaks. And the new amendment under consideration dilutes this very right, which is at the heart of all violence in North Caledonia. French lawmakers view the existing arrangement as quote-unquote undemocratic. They want to expand the electorate to include people who have lived in New Caledonia for at least 10 years.
Si le gel du corps électoral ne concernait à l'origine que 8338 électeurs,
while the freezing of the electorate originally concerned only 8,338 votes, or 7.5% of the electorate, this figure has now risen to 42,596 in 2023. That is one voter in 5 who cannot vote. Democracy means voting. Voting is, of course, the possibility for every citizen to choose his or her representative. The majority is not the vote. Majority is not about classifying people by skin color or origin. It's about enabling all citizens to choose their common future.
The Senate had passed a proposed constitutional reform in April. These provisions are now being discussed by lower house lawmakers. Let's focus to India now. The country's startup ecosystem is robust with multiple schemes aimed at strengthening India's self-sufficiency. Today on Polonomics, we take a trip down memory lane and see how India's startup ecosystem has evolved and what major government schemes have propelled this very surge.
The past decade has witnessed a remarkable surge in India's startup ecosystem. The number of tech companies has skyrocketed to 122,000 by 2023, with a peak year in 2020 seeing over 16,000 new additions. This growth has been fueled by several factors, including increased internet penetration, digitization initiatives, and a supportive government. Funding has also played a crucial role in this success story. Despite facing challenges in 2023, overall investment remained strong, with a total of $8.4 billion infused into Indian startups. Looking at specific sectors, we see fintech, retail, and enterprise applications leading the pack. Additionally, a commitment to deep tech and R&D focused startups has seen steady growth, with a total investment of $6.73 billion over the past decade. Beyond established sectors, India's startup landscape is witnessing the rise of exciting new industries. Space tech, fueled by its recent privatization, has registered a surge in funding, reaching $115 million in 2022 and $122 million in 2023. Artificial intelligence and electric vehicles are also attracting significant investments, with the EV industry receiving a total of $4.8 billion over the past 10 years. Geographically, Bengaluru continues to reign supreme as the undisputed startup hub. The city has attracted $70.4 billion in funding over a decade. However, the story is not limited to metros. Several non-metropolitan areas are also emerging as centers for innovation. Jaipur stands out as a leader in fintech funding, securing $214 million in 2023. The role of women entrepreneurs is another noteworthy aspect. Women-led startups have witnessed a significant increase in funding, reaching $1.1 billion in 2023, a jump from $0.456 billion in 2014. The Indian government has actively supported the startup ecosystem through a range of initiatives. Some of the major schemes include Startup India Initiative and Startup India Seed Fund Scheme. Schemes like credit guarantees for startups offer credit to small-scale startups. Similarly, schemes like Atal Innovation Mission strive to build incubation centers across the country. These schemes, along with others, have played a vital role in nurturing and empowering Indian startups. By providing financial assistance, infrastructure support, and a conducive regulatory environment, the government is fostering a vibrant startup ecosystem that is driving economic growth and innovation. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And with that, we are wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching.